I'm Michael O'Malley, and I will be playing the role of Johnny Blood McNally. I find one thing to be terribly relatable is this kind of connection to his heritage of being Irish. My father is from Ireland, and I spent some of my childhood being raised in Ireland. And so I kind of, when I came over here, it is very interesting how it's a mixing pot of so many different types of nationalities. And I found that to be just, very cool at first, but then you kind of start to realize that there's a lot of interesting turmoil that goes around with it. So Johnny Blood, he has this turmoil of kind of being, Irish, and constantly going out and constantly drinking and whatnot. And to me, that kind of struggle and that ability to realize like what is overconsumption, just through, I don't know, a genetic fault through nationality of being Irish, I guess, is kind of just something that I'm always terribly aware of. And with him, it seems to be something that he's almost trying to avoid. Avoid the realization that it might be something out of his control. And so that, to me, that kind of a demon that's always kind of hypothetical is very relatable. So that's one of the things. I mean, another one of the things is just a tear between the arts and athleticism. With Johnny Blood McNally, he was an amazing football player, but on top of that, he loved theater, he loved music, he kind of loved poetry, and that combination in a person, I always believe, leads to a little bit of a divide of almost like, which should I choose? So, I think he made the right choices, of course, with how they go on to win 3 championships in a row. So, that shows that he knew what he was doing. But I always, kind of felt a little melancholy for the guy for when it comes to him really trying to express himself poetically or artistically. And I think that's, that's one thing that is pretty relatable as well to the guy. By usually referencing as much as I can about what we know about him. So Dennis Gullickson wrote The Vagabond, Halfback. I read that back to back, I think twice. And then trying to get into the time period, because the way that people carry themselves and how they dress and how they interact with each other is very, determined by kind of the time frame. And so I did a lot of research into the 1920s. But then how I get into my character personally is I take all that and I kind of try and put it into the back of my mind, and then I realize the motivation of my character and try and fulfill that kind of want or need to do something. Because one thing that I've noticed on stage is if we just go through the motions, it becomes stale. But if you're constantly going through the decisions, then it kind of makes it a little bit more on edge, I think. So whenever I'm trying to get into my character, Johnny Blood McNally, I always try and think of, a deep love for Genevieve, or, a deep animosity towards Benny Friedman, or kind of, a respect and a fear for Curly Lambeau. And then I take all those emotions and I try and make them drive what the decision of Johnny Blood is. And so I said, I guess in the long run, how I get into character is just as very natural of a process as possible, because then you can react instead of act. I think Johnny Blood McNally, he's known for reacting. That's how he could pull games together or throw games away, is because he might react poorly or might react perfectly. And so those kind of reactions, especially between him and Curly, because Curly's the one who points them out when they fail, it just really builds who he is, because sure, you can have all these other things on the side, but when the time comes, what kind of guy are you? And that's what I try to portray with Johnny Blood McNally. And he's such a diverse, character that is sometimes difficult to realize which motivation is pushing him at the time. So that always comes with just hours and hours of reading through the script and, you know, working with the other actors and making sure that the motivation fits. And, you know, sometimes they won't know about it, like Reber Street. I don't think a lot of people will know why I'm at Reber Street, but, you know, as Johnny Blood McNally, I know why I'm there. I was brought onto this play 2 years ago, and I think the best part has been putting it together, getting everything going. I mean, I've never been part of a production where literally from the ground floor all the way up, trying to get everybody together, get all the sets built, get everything designed, find a director, find promotional, you know, events and venues that we can push the name out. Because as an actor, I've always realized how much time it takes to memorize lines and kind of get into character, but it's always terribly difficult for, you know, an actor to realize the amount of work that goes on behind the scenes. So it was really great to see that and do that.